helps us to reflect or remember who we are, who we were born to be. He brings an incredible pure love and energy to the masses.
Bratzo is facilitating that oneness so that we live our lives with greater love and awareness and compassion for all of humanity.
I became officially disabled 3 years ago. Since then, I've used meditation for pain control. I have pain 24/7. I lost my job because I couldn't think anymore, because the pain takes over. I have been a spiritual person for many, many years. So I'm here, I hope, for whatever is meant.
I'm just being open to the possibilities of what's there. I don't have any expectations of how it should be. I want to just go and experience it. It sounds very exciting and impressive, but I guess it's something you really have to experience, because it's like, wow, could it really just, being in someone's presence that's gazing, just change your life like that? Help you open up latent possibilities and reconnect you and renew you and heal you. I mean, it sounds like a lot of promise, but I decided, it's 45 minutes away. I don't want to miss this one. Well, I have some small aches and pains. I have my shoulder, my knee. I can't walk up the stairs. I have difficulty putting pressure on it. I have a lot of small little health problems that I would love to just be balanced and feel good in general. But probably the biggest draw that I'm interested in is kind of renewing, reconnecting spiritually.
It would be a miracle if I can shrink my prostate to a regular size. Yeah, I have a large prostate and I need a surgery to reduce the size of the prostate. Within 2 weeks I should have the surgery.
Generally speaking, I feel very healthy. I mean, generally speaking. I compete with much younger men playing tennis and ping pong and doing all kind of stuff, so I'm pretty active. But right now it's a little unusual. Obviously I have an unusual situation right now. The pain that I went through for an entire week in the hospital, I don't think I could imagine that much pain, that it could be possible for anybody.
He had bladder spasms.
Wow. And it took me to a different dimension, literally.
I'm kind of encouraged because of just watching it the other day. I was sharing with you that I have this limited range of motion of my arm, and I did notice that the range of motion improved by about 50% after watching the gazing on the internet. Because it was really great.
I was very impressed. Look, I'm an engineer, so I'm very cut and dry. Numbers, buildings, everything. And I couldn't believe it. That's me. I believe in, you know, brick and concrete and steel and all that stuff. I was very impressed, but personally I was watching and I almost fell asleep. I'm sorry to say that. I was like dozing off. But now that I saw what happened to her, I said, wow, this is very impressive. Yeah, my gosh, I mean, if they could do this at a prostate.
I didn't really expect it
Wow.
because there's a part of me that just wonders how he does it.
I look at it differently. I look at it as him being a facilitator, actually. You do it yourself. Your body, you can heal yourself. What he does is facilitates it, makes sure that it happens. He gives you the ammunition to make it happen. That's the only explanation I have for her arm getting better.
My experience today was very profound. The room became dark and all I saw was total light. Then I got a sense of him saying to me, all is well, just let everything go. And I felt such an amazing peace come over me that I felt so relaxed, and I still do. And I feel just like a knowingness.
Feel great. A lot better than I did a few weeks ago. I went back to work this week, played ping pong for the first time in a couple months. I told them that in 2 weeks I'm going to try to get on a court and do some tennis. That would be the big test.
Honestly, I don't think that we ever expected Albert to, health-wise, be where he is right now. 4 weeks ago, you thought you were going in for surgery like the next day. We're kind of amazed, in a way, that this all just kind of lifted and doesn't seem to be an issue right now at all.
If I go back and the doctor goes, gee, you know, everything looks good, you don't need any surgery, that would be really a miracle.
I think the miraculous thing was that you were scheduled for surgery.
Yes.
And it wasn't that we went with this hope that, well, I guess we did have a hope that he wouldn't need the surgery, but I think it was kind of, we were shocked when we went and he said, we're not going to do the surgery, come back in 6 months. He wasn't well enough to get to the gazing, that's how bad he was. We just had to take his picture. And then 10 days later, he doesn't need surgery, and they take out the catheter and he's walking around. And he has no symptoms at all,
No.
which is pretty miraculous, really.
Yeah.
I guess in the end, he would have to say he was happy that we took his picture there and that
Yes,
he
absolutely,
had that
yeah.
exposure, because the healing really took place quickly after that. There was no way to be able to say he didn't get some benefit. You forget how much pain he was in, forget that he was in bed for so many weeks, forget that he could barely move. You forget all that, and you really do.
I'm feeling better every day, which is great, and getting back to normal. It's a great feeling to get back to normal. As far as transformation, it's a slow process, obviously. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not like, bang, you know, you feel better now. It's a slow process, but it has gotten better and better.
There was a moment when I was watching him gazing out at the audience where I saw a spark in him greeting a spark in whoever he was gazing at. And I realized what was happening is that he was looking not at the person, but deep in beyond all the veils into the divine spark within the person. He was just looking, but there wasn't the normal judgments and preconceptions and lenses that he was looking through. He was just seeing who I was. It helped me see myself the same way that he was seeing me. And because I was able to see myself without any judgment and preconception and no lens, I saw myself as this huge love. I almost felt like I was transmitting something. So I could tell just by this inner awakening, something happened through my presence that affected other people. That was really profound for me, because when we change the way we see the world actually changes. Miracle, that's a real miracle. Wow, real miracle. There's some sort of energy that's emitted from us, and you could explain it maybe in physics in some way, but it's real. And the beautiful thing was that for many years it's been my deepest wish to see God in others, in everybody in the whole world. And when I looked out at the audience, for a moment I was able to look at the audience through his eyes and to see the perfect, absolute perfect divinity there. It was almost as if I was looking at a room full of Bratzos. And then I felt that we were doing what humanity as a whole is doing or will be doing soon. It felt like humanity was waking up, you know, growing up, beginning to grow up. And wake up, you too, but it was beginning to grow up. And we're embodying in this room what's happening out there. I think it's actually happening as we speak, and it's going to be reaching greater and greater critical mass. That's what I sense. It's happening in pockets all around the world, and it's spreading out. Just like Bratzo's energy is invisible and powerful, what we as individual groups are doing is invisible and powerful in its own way and filtering out throughout the whole world. I had the feeling of being seen for the first time. It was almost like I was being seen and I had what Bratzo had inside, and so because of that, anything was possible. It didn't feel like Bratzo said, okay, here's this lightning bolt, bam, now I have the lightning bolt. It felt like it was awakening what was in me, and it always been there. This was self-empowering in the sense that something in me was awakened that was more truly mine than anything I could ever possess physically, and than anything that I could ever imagine. It was my birthright. It was also the birthright of every human being on the planet. Bratzo is allowing us to change ourselves. The first time that I've been seen really means, wow, the first time my true greatness has been seen. Somebody else has given me permission, now I can give myself permission. Wow.
You know, he's a beautiful man. His beauty is out there. I felt a warm heart, and I felt that he can feel others' pain, and he can see them, what they are, what they have. I feel for the first time in my whole life, somebody saw me. That's really it. I don't like to complain. I don't like to say I suffer. But I do, because I can't function mentally, because I can't think, because it's too much. And he saw that. He saw that. I always have all kinds of pain all the time, every day, and I work with it. But this put it all together in one, and it made it an energy, not suffering. You know, even if he doesn't have, even if the pain stays the same, I saw recognition in another human being that he sees what I am. I can't even explain to my family how it feels every day. But he did know, just like that. It's nice to have that feeling that someone knows what you live like, because you're always hiding it and putting the face on and functioning and being positive, you know. You're always doing that. And someday you just want to go, somebody look at me, because it's hard. And that's what I felt from him. I didn't expect I'd feel that. I didn't even think of that. Blew my mind.
But I've lived on this property all my life, and I've always felt that it had great energy. I just think it's a wonderful space, and I'm so pleased that people come from such a distance to acknowledge Watson.
There's so much you can do with a tractor. A tractor like this with a bucket is a very handy thing. You can move material around, you can reach high, you can even get yourself out of a hole if you have to. I grew up on a farm. I grew up here, same place. And that childhood, I think that's probably the best childhood you could have. I've always worked from a young age. I've always felt productive. Working with the animals is really a very calming, quieting, accountable way of growing up. The farm and the grounds, you know, are really part of my essence.
Part of the journey of each of our lifetimes is to remember the truth of who we are and to remember why we came here. If everybody could be in silence, like what brought us, and just feels the presence. It's like God, does God talk? Does light talk? Does love talk? Does the wind talk?
On some of these programs that you do, you have what they call be-withs, where you just sit with somebody for an extended period of time. And at first, you know, you may feel uncomfortable. You may feel that you want to say something, and then you just kind of like be with somebody. And then the more you do that, the more you see how they really are loved. And you just look into their eyes, and your compassion extends. Whereas if you had that conversation, you get in the way. So he does that on kind of a mass basis. He's a giant be with. Yeah.
But
and in the process you heal.
No, we
That's
don't.
interesting.
I would like to heal from an eating disorder that I've been plagued with most of my adult life, really since my dad died. Since I was in my early 20s, I've struggled very much with anorexia, particularly. That's still very much a part of my reality. The trouble that I have with food and eating and myself and my self-esteem, the self-love and the self-acceptance and the self-approval that I need to be able to give myself in order to be able to eat without feeling guilt or shame. One of my physical symptoms that I suffer from is indigestion, which derives, I think, from the way that I feel about myself when I eat, and it's sort of a form of punishment. I understand my mind very well because I meditate a lot, but there's this wall that I'm still not quite able to get out of. We're all bound by some kind of distress or disturbance, most of us in our bodies, and to be able to be comfortable and free and happy, in this body with this life, just as it is, without wanting to change it, to be content. I wish that for myself, and I wish that for everyone. In the second gazing session yesterday, I had a really profound heart opening around a very old childhood wounding that I had incurred from my mother, where I internalized, that my mom hadn't been able to really see me. I found myself in that second gazing session just standing in the audience, and it was this beautiful, bright, sunny day, and just begging him to look at me and see me. And I was so far away that I can't believe that I actually felt the block of the gaze, but I did. I did feel his eyes meet my eyes, and all of that desperate longing that I had had as a child, wanting my mother to see me. I used to dream about it. Sometimes I'd have these nightmares where, I'd be asking her to see me, recognize me, and she would just look at me like she didn't know me. And I felt like in that moment, all of that longing was being soothed. Being in the closed room today and being so close gave just this sort of reinforcement of real unconditional love, that I've never been able to receive before. And has just created this deep settling in me. This kind of hunger, I think maybe that had been connected possibly to the eating disorder, this hunger to be seen, had got nourished, which was lovely. I do feel that it will help me tremendously in my healing from anorexia, and also in healing from all of the self-esteem and self-worth issues that derived from that not getting the love from my mom. So now I think, having been given this missing piece of a puzzle, I do feel more whole, more connected to my wholeness, and less of that hunger. So maybe that hunger won't need to be expressed in an eating disorder anymore. So I'm hopeful, which is a great feeling. It's a wonderful feeling.
In September, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, and I was introduced about Broxo in October. When he walked in, I started to choke up and my whole body warmed up. I felt such heat. It was like having a hot flash times 20. It was a cool night that night, and it was rainy, and before he even came out, I was chilly. I had a jacket on, and soon after I met eyes with him, I just heated right up, and I had to take my jacket off. I didn't know why I was so hot, because I didn't know that that was the healing. I later learned that that was a good thing. I just felt his presence, his energy through me, and I just felt internally grateful instantly. And 2 weeks later, I found out that my disease was gone. Last year at this time, on this very day of this morning, I got a phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning from that APRN that said to me, "You need to go and see your doctor right away. He's waiting for you. He's reviewed your scans." And he's very upset what he's seeing. And I went up to my bedroom and I thought, geez, what do you wear when you're going to go see a doctor who's going to tell you that you have really bad news? I said to God, I said, I know you're not going to take me. I know that I have lessons to learn. And I know that you're doing this so that I can learn those lessons and help other people. I know there's a reason for this. And I'm going to try to be strong and brave to learn what I need to learn so that I can help other people with what this does. And he has done that for me because he sent me to see Broxo and let him do his work. I'm an interior designer, but I'm a mom of 3. I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and I wasn't going anywhere. I knew I had to be here for them. I have a lot of work to do. I feel that I've needed to go through this so that I would have the experience to be able to relate to others that are going through it, show them how to be strong, and know that their body can heal them. Their body has more intelligence than we give it credit. If you believe you are healthy, you will become healthy. And the energy from Braxo just enhances all that. I do have a lot of faith. I was brought up in the Catholic religion. I believe in, God and Jesus and Mary, and I pray to them a lot. And I felt them with me quite often through this process. I believe that Braxo is a piece of that on earth, like he was sent by them, and he's just another way for people to get closer.
What she was given was very, very strong, and she handled it better than I ever expected, and what I researched and what people told me and everything else. And I think this had a tremendous amount to do with it. I really do. Especially from that first time out in New Milford, when it's like her whole internal body system changed.
I had the gazing, and then I had one more treatment, and then at that end of that treatment, they told me I was cured, and they usually don't see that.
I mean, her numbers were way down right after that, and before she even got into the middle of her treatment.
It was only my second treatment, and you're supposed to have at least 6. Sometimes people have 8, and even then, it may not work. And they don't usually see someone being in remission after a second treatment.
Her numbers were way up here. They dropped astronomically to where people were amazed of the condition that she was in, where they dropped to.
I shared with my doctor about Braxo because I really wanted him to be open to that. And I thought maybe it also would explain to him why I was in such a good place so quickly, and have him be open to other things besides just medicine. I know he's a very faithful man, and I told him that I believed that Braxo truly comes from God, and he's here on this earth to help people. It's a gift from God. And he looked at me and he said, "That very well could be." He said to me, "I agree, Lynn, that you being in such a good place so early is really could be a miracle, because you had something really bad. You had one of the worst kinds." I feel exhilarated. I have lots of peace and happiness, and I have the energy and the endurance that I had before I had my 3 children. So I feel like I'm like 20 years younger.
I think the best way to explain it is that all of a sudden she became more like a flower opens up. Like she was in the sun, the warmth. It was like she's getting back to her old self. It was like a breath of fresh air, a breath of life, kind of like a new beginning.
So this is my baby. This is Nick. Nicholas Galliano, that is. I'm a violinist. This is a nice French bow. I'm currently a professor at Butler University here in Indianapolis and concertmaster of a couple of orchestras. I'm just going to play a little unaccompanied Bach so that we can have just a brief meditation. And as I play, allow the vibrations of the music to join with your breath, to take you deep inside that silent place at the center of our being where each of us has that little droplet of the divine, that droplet that gets activated by the healing process of Brazzo. I'm a violinist, and I carried a lot of baggage from a very abusive childhood. I left home when I was 14. There were always these blocks in my, in my playing that I could feel. And during the time that we were in Hawaii, each late afternoon, evening, I would step out onto the lanai and I'd play unaccompanied Bach with the ocean a few yards away and the sun setting. And it was magical. I didn't know until after he had left that Brazzo was in the next room. There's a totally different dimension in my playing now, which is heard by everyone, by my students when they attend my recitals, by my colleagues. And the other thing that I have noticed is that after a lifetime of sleep disorders, I'm sleeping very, very, very deeply. And that is an incredible gift for me. That is in itself a major healing modality, to be able to sleep deeply. I never could before in my life. And so to me those two things are the blessings and the healings that I've received. It's like a new lease on life.
I'm just beginning this process, and I'm going to pick a brush. I was born with respiratory challenges. So all my life I struggled. I was sick for long periods of time. I'm a happy soul, and I believe in God, and I'm very faithful. So I have a certain something that works even if I'm sick. And then I went to India to study. I'm a yoga teacher. And I came home with a severe respiratory illness.
I'm an internal medicine physician, traditionally trained at Indiana University Medical School, and completed a residency at University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. Ashley had severe degenerative osteoarthritis of the left hip, and she had difficulty walking. Even just the simplest movements caused her a great deal of pain. She was walking with a cane. In regards to Ashley's other conditions, she's had a chronic respiratory condition that seems to be exacerbated by allergies.
She was in such bad health. She had been in a car accident a number of years ago, and I had watched her spiral down, and I was very concerned for her.
She was in a serious accident 10 years ago, and she's had challenges with it. And for a yoga teacher to not be able to walk much, to be in pain all the time, is not an easy thing to do.
She had struggled so long after the car accident, having her pelvic bones crushed and stuff, so not a good thing.
Somebody I know from New Jersey, someone in one of the yoga groups I belong to, said, I have somebody who's going to help you. I know someone who can help you heal. You're always talking about miracles, and you say you believe in them. Now you're going to see what a miracle really is. So I went online, and there he was. I said, oh my God, he's an angel.
this is an angel looking at me. This isn't even a person. I called Larry into the room. I said, Larry, look at this. What do you think?
Yeah. And I also felt there was something otherworldly and angelic about that wonderful face that was staring out at us.
And we started looking at the DVDs online every night.
Before we went to bed.
And we decided to go to Hawaii because I'd have 5 days to be with him. My doctor did not think I would make it. It was too long a trip. And I knew I would. I just said, what's the diff? If I'm going out, let me do it in Hawaii.
She told me that she was going to Hawaii to see this person.
That was really their celebration for their 50th wedding anniversary, which I thought was a wonderful thing to do because they've had a lot of journeys together through the years, and many of them around making a difference and around healing.
Ashley was told not to go to Hawaii. She watched the DVDs every night so she could go.
And she's telling me there's a possibility that this healer could help her, and she was going to make this trip.
By the time I got there, there was not much left. I mean, I couldn't even walk, and Larry took me to the first day of gazings in a wheelchair. And during the gazings, I felt God's love. I never saw him, not ever, not one time, because the brightness is so golden around him. There's so much brightness, but I felt that love, and I wanted to close my eyes and just let it pour into me. And then Larry took me back to the hotel, and I fell right to sleep. I didn't even want to eat dinner, and I fell asleep, and I woke up in the morning and I was well. I knew I was. I knew it. Usually Larry had to help me out of bed. I was up and on my own, and I knew that I was fine. Then I went to my doctor when I came home, and this is what he said, exact words. As he was examining me, he said, "This is amazing. It's amazing." Maybe 4 times.
Ashley's condition was chronic and progressive and really degenerative in nature, and for her to see some regression of her condition was surprising, absolutely. Upon her return, she essentially had eliminated the use of the cane. She had increased mobility, she had decreased pain overall, and increased range of motion of the joint. She's had some shortness of breath and difficulty with exercise due to her limitations in her lung capacity, and she's had a subjective improvement in that condition as well, with improved respiratory function, decreased shortness of breath. The prognosis for Ashley is quite good. Given the changes that we've seen, I believe that she's going to continue in her healing process.
I physically look different. Even I look in the mirror and go, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be married 50 years. Everything is different. My hair is thicker. I see without glasses. And people who see me, who have not seen me since the healing, are stunned.
I've known Ashley for 15 years, a long time, and I see her quite frequently. And I saw her just a day or two after she got back from Hawaii.
I saw hope. I saw more energy. I saw her standing without a cane at times, which was pretty amazing.
She was radiant. There was this light in her face. She looked beautiful. She looks beautiful anyway, but she was glowing. And she was happy, and there was this distinct change, and I saw her walking. I mean, I'd seen her for years hobbling around with her cane and, holding on to things as she moved. And I saw her get up and walk smoothly
She had been on the cane, using the cane so much, and her physical well-being is just so different. Her breathing, she's like, she looks like she's 12. She looks fabulous. I mean, you can tell she feels really great.
And she still, of course, practices her yoga, and she's still very flexible.
I'm healthier now on one level than I was when I was 5 years old, because I don't have any more respiratory issues. They're gone. Yes, God. And I wish it for everyone.
Last month, I had the privilege of participating in 2 events with Brazzo here in Indianapolis, and I felt elevation in my overall energy and clarity and focus. I know several of my patients have gone to Brazzo. They've seen changes in their physical health conditions. I've had a chance to talk to some of them following the event, and they've all seen continued benefit.
A friend of mine has bone cancer and wheelchair bound, and she asked me to bring her picture. So I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I held her picture up and asked for healing. 10 minutes after our session ended, she got up out of her wheelchair and walked. And so the next day I saw her at a church concert, and she stood in the aisleway and clapped her hands to the music.
I was diagnosed with COPD, which is emphysema, and there is no cure for that at all. The second session I went to, I was breathing better, and I actually stood up and told people that it was nice to breathe without it hurting. 6 days later, I had an appointment with my critical care doctor, who had already discussed with me having a double lung transplant, and examined me and told me that either a miracle had happened since he had seen me, or every test that they'd run on me was wrong. And he did the test, and he knew better. He said, "I'm doing great. I don't even have to use an inhaler anymore. I'm doing wonderful." He told me he'd see me in the fall just for a flu shot. So that's how good I'm doing.
I've suffered with fibromyalgia for about the last 6 months. And what that feels like is, imagine how you feel when you have the flu and you ache all over. Multiply that times 1,000. And that's how you feel every day of your life. And I've been on pain medication, which takes the edge off but does not make it go away. And I suddenly realized, while sitting here in this last session, that I am pain-free.
My mother went to 2 sessions, and after it was over with, she said, "Well, I don't really know anything happened." And so we went back, and she had come up unable to breathe hardly. She couldn't hardly get out of her chair. She was very slow. She's had a number of health issues and congestive heart failure, and so she was very slow at whatever she was doing. She couldn't lift anything. So anyway, we went back, and one of my cousins called me and said, "Have you noticed what your mother's doing? She's like jumps out of her chair." And so everybody in the family began to notice, and she goes to the store and picks up mulch and plants, flowers, and she takes them home and she drags them out of her trunk. And she goes over and she's planting, and she's got this huge garden now that she's planted. And just last month, she got on an airplane and went to Arizona to visit family. So she's like amazing. It's amazing what's happened. Thank you.
When he came out, I felt this intense love, like I knew him from a long, long time ago.
He brings an incredible pure love and energy to the masses. If you're receptive and open to receiving that, I think he can heal. I think he does heal and transforms people's lives.
I am one of these people that have been searching for all these years. And now I have got a glimpse that yes, this is something very major and very tangible and that anyone can get.
People from so many different cultures live here, but if you can bring them all together, it's like a mass consciousness of love that he's pouring out, not only to the whole audience, but he looks at each individual and gives.
People, instead of being divided, it's really a long time ago before they had different nationalities named, people was as one anyway. They were all as one. So this is another way of putting people back into their original state of being oneness with their soul and their life and their spirituality.
He helps us to reflect or remember who we are, who we were born to be, which is pure souls with unconditional love.
We remember it. When you taste it, you remember it. Yeah, wait, this is us. This is what we come from.
He reminds us of that when he looks at us and gazes at us. It's like one love.
The beautiful thing about him is it has nothing to do with what we're used to in healers and gurus and, I mean, nothing. I've never felt it before in this way.
And there's no dogma, which I really appreciate. No dogma. It's just pure love, compassion.
I was laughing when the phone rang in that last one because, yeah, the phone's ringing. This is a wake-up call. The debate's over. Is there a source? Is there a loving light out there? Yeah. He gets up there, our source comes through, and it's just about that. I got a chance to really look in his eyes this time, and I got it. I got what's happening there. It's very ancient, it's very profound, but it's the real thing.
It's a very simple thing, very simple. God didn't make anything complicated. He made everything simple in life.
I feel that there's so much light and love coming through him that it lifts us up to what our true purpose is. The first time I went to see him, I heard a voice inside me, and it confirmed everything I knew about myself ever since I've been little. And it was so profound. I started crying, and I just couldn't stop crying through the whole session. Then I felt like I've known this energy all my life. I felt like this is what I've known. This is who I am.
Well, there's a piece that my dad loved when I was little, and maybe I should just play that.
I'm a classical pianist, I'm a musician, and I hate practicing the piano, so I do concerts and then I stop practicing and get really upset with myself.
This is for you, Dad. Shall I start?
For the first time ever since I've seen Bratzo in October, I've been practicing the piano every day, and it's not because I need to, but it's because I know it's my gift and it comes through me. People who've been coming to my concerts a lot of times cry through it, and they tell me it's been healing to them. I love playing Chopin and classical repertoire, and sometimes I'm so embarrassed because I bow and all the people in front rows are blowing their noses and women's mascara is down their cheeks. And I say, I'm so sorry. They're like, no, this has been wonderful. So there was something in me that lined up with that I know I'm supposed to do that. My music that I always felt like I'm supposed to do, but because I started relatively late in my life, I felt like it was coming from this ego place. I want to be on stage, I want to make money that way, but something lined up where I felt like I was meant to do it. And it totally reconnected with the essence of my being. This is why I'm on earth. This is why I'm here. This is powerful. This is lines up with everything from my childhood up. I think it can't go more powerful than that.
When I'm around Bratzo, and if I'm in his presence, even if he's not anywhere near the room, then automatically my body begins in training to his energy. And I automatically start feeling the shift of energy within myself. And this is like an involuntary movement that happens. I found that the gazing is much more powerful when I close my eyes, because when I have my eyes open, then my mind is always telling me that I need to see Bratzo's eyes, or I need to see Bratzo's aura, or I need to see the gold that's around Bratzo, which I do. I can see those things as well. I feel that the particular gaze is beautiful, but he is giving us so much more than his gaze. And I want to participate in what I can't see, because that's the stuff I'm very interested in. It's very important for me to be one with the divine, and I believe that Bratzo is facilitating that oneness for all of us, so that we live our lives with greater love and awareness and compassion for all of humanity. He's the catalyst for that to happen, for us to all remember who we are, the divinity within inside of ourselves, and to begin living that divinity every single day, outside of the limitations that society or mankind has placed upon us. I feel that the divine has sent him here to help us to remember who we are.
There's so much light and love coming through him that it lifts us up to what our true purpose is.
He's the catalyst for us to all remember who we are, the divinity within inside of ourselves, and to begin living that divinity every single day. Bratzo is facilitating that oneness so that we live our lives with greater love and awareness and compassion for all of humanity.
And you totally reconnected with the essence of my being. This is why I'm on earth. This is why I'm here. I think it can't go more powerful than that.
Thank you.